Let's see how this goes. Yeah, I'm not sure. I forgot how to use this already. Okay, here we are. Okay. Top of Chav Dalet Amud Aleph. And I try to make it bigger. How does it go here? There's okay. I'm okay. I'm not, okay. Okay. I can make it bigger still, but so the question we was middle of was about Avelis for Shabbos. That's how the Gemara started. So far, the Gemara said there was Machlokes Bnei Yehuda and Golil, and the Gemara tried to bring a raya. It was no raya. So now we're getting into the sugya. Yesh Avelis for Shabbos and Avelis for Shabbos. The halachas of Avelis apply on Shabbos or not? Amalei ain't Avelis for Shabbos. Rabbi Yochanan asked Shmuel, and Shmuel said there's no Avelis. Okay, we'll take that as an. So far, we had a Machlokes already. Yehuda and Golil, but now it says that. I really forgot what the Gemara said earlier. 1 second, if it's just possible. Here, I can't scroll just to get that the Gemara that I should be remembering what it said yesterday's page. Right, that's what we had so far. The Gemara had the Yehuda and Gol. The Gemara tried to bring rice from the Mishnah either way. Either way, it wasn't a right from the Mishnah. Then the Gemara brought the place where it says about Machlokes Rabbi Gamliel and Tanakama if Tashmish Amita during Aninas, but the Gemara said Aninas is not a right to Avelis, so we're still holding that we don't know. You then go have Machlokes. Now it says Shmuel said no Avelis. Yasfer Abona Kamed Rapapa Vakami Mishmei Shmuel Avel Sheshimesh Mitosa B'Mei Yavlo Chayv Misa. So here it seems to be a side issue, not about Shabbos. It comes in as a side issue. Question why it comes in. I didn't see. Maybe we'll see something, but not clear how it comes in. Over here we're middle of talking about Shabbos. But here it talks about Sam, that if Avel would have relations on Shabbos, we said before they're not supposed to, not on Shabbos. If Avel would have relations, that'd be the Pashup Shot. And we said that Avel's not allowed to. We learned it out from David. It says by Nachman David des Bathsheba, and then he had relations. So that means that during Avelos he did not. So we know already that Avel's not allowed to have relations during the Sheva Simei Avelos. But here it says that somebody said in front of our Papa, that Shmuel said, if Avel has relations during his Shiva, Chayiv Misa. That doesn't mean that the Bezin kills him, but it means it's Chayiv Misa B'dei Shemayim kind of thing. It's a terrible thing. And it doesn't say why it's so terrible and why it's more extra terrible than the other things, but it says if he has relations during Shiva, it's Chayiv Misa. Putra Papa protested, he said that's the guy, he got it wrong. Papa said to that person who told him, Asur Itmar, Itmar. First of all, it wasn't said Chayiv Misa, nobody said Chayiv Misa, and it wasn't Shmuel, it was Rabbi Yochanan. But if you did have anything about Shmuel, about Chayiv Misa, it's going to be something else. It was a little bit misquoted. If you hear anything in the name of Shmuel about being Chayiv Misa, some novel who doesn't do the Hilchos Avelos, this is what you might have heard. There was something said in the name of Shmuel about an Avel who didn't conduct himself in Avelos, said it's Chayiv Misa, but it wasn't the way you quoted it about having relations. It's talking about Lopirim. Those are two halachas that Avel is supposed to do. We learned it out already from the Bnei Aaron, that it says Aaron and his sons, that it says that over there, because they were in the middle of the Shmini Lemiluim, even though their Aaron's son and their brother is not the brother of Elozani someone, Nadav and Avihu, they died. So Nadav and Avihu died. So it's still don't do Avelos. And it says you shouldn't let your hair grow long, or whatever Tefro means, and you should not cut your garments, and don't die, because the Pashut is that if you do it, you are going to die, because you're not supposed to do Avelos now that you're in the middle of the Miluim. But the Gemara is going to say drasha differently. That Losa Musa doesn't mean because if you do it, you're going to die. But you, even though you don't do it, you're not going to die, because I'm saying you shouldn't do Avelos. So if you're not going to do these two things of Avelos, you're not going to die. But somebody else who would be an Avel that wouldn't do it, he would be Chayiv Misa. So of course it's on a drash level, but it says that an Avel who doesn't do these two things of Avelos, of Anagas Avelos, that he doesn't para, which would mean, according to Wamsha, we had Machlokes what that means. If it means not to he should let his hair grow long, and he's supposed to cut his garment, Kriya. So if an Avel wouldn't do that, he'd be Chayiv Misa. So we have three points over here, but one of them, our Papa said that was wrong to say that it's Chayiv Misa if he has relations. At most, that it's Aser. Some do say that the connection to the Sugi would be that Aser meant that even if it came even on Shabbos, which would mean that's not the connection. Otherwise, there's no Shachas to our Sugi. We're talking about Avelos and Shabbos. But some say that maybe the word Aser over here would mean on Shabbos, that he holds he's not supposed to have relations, even though that's going to be the sugi coming up about the Dvar Shabbat Sinat, even though we say there's no Avelis for Shabbos, but maybe the Dvar Shabbat Sinat he's not supposed to do. So that might be the connection. Otherwise, we don't know the connection over here. Anyway, it says that if a Avel does not fulfill the din of Avelis to let his hair grow long or to cut his garment, so he's Chayiv Misa. And they had a drash over here to explain that. I'm Rafam Bar Papa, Tana Abel Rabasi. We learned in the Masechta called Abel Rabasi. Maseches Avel. Rabasi means the big one. Abel Rabasi. There's Rashi says this is referring to Maseches Mochos. If you look at the end of Avodah Zarah, it has all the Masechtas Katanas over there. One of them is Maseches Mochos. It doesn't mean the Masechta of happiness. It means the Masechta of Avelus, but it's called Maseches Mochos. And that's
part of Daf Yomi?
No, it's not in the Daf Yomi. All those Masechtas, interesting, they didn't put it into the Daf Yomi. In the back of Avodah Zarah, there's a lot of Masechtas Katanos, and it's not in the Sidra. So over there it says in Maseches Mochos, which means Maseches Avelus, it says that it's also for an Avel to have relations during the Shiva, and that we know. Now it says that what somebody did, he transgressed this halacha and he had relations during his Shiva, and it says that pigs chazerim they shamtu giviyasa. The word giviyasa Rashi has two pshatim what it might mean. It might mean his body. That means that it was dragging his body. When he died, this person is dragging his body, or it means the organ. It means the organ, and that would be some kind of midah that he used his organ in the wrong time, the wrong place, so the wrong time. So during his avela. So that comes. So even though we said a pshat to make some connection with the first pshat, it simply would just read that this Gemara has nothing to do with our subject. We're in the middle of the subject about avelus and Shabbos, and we said that Shmuel said ain't avelus for Shabbos, and we had some things that came in about that Avel is not allowed to have relations, and he's also there's two dinim of pri and prima. He's supposed to let his hair grow long, and he's supposed to cut his garment, rent his garment. Also, we said priya might mean. We said priya means letting his hair grow long. There's also another pshat in priya that it means that he's supposed to atifa sarosh. He's supposed to cover his head. He's supposed to not to uncover his head. But we'll see. Now the Gemara goes back to the subject about Shabbos. So again, we're talking about is the Avelus and Shabbos. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel's the one who said that Avelus doesn't apply in Shabbos, right? He said on top of the page, he said, ain't Avelus for Shabbos. Avelus doesn't apply in Shabbos. Shmuel says now, Amar Shmuel, Pachas Chova, Neter Rishus. So these are Rashi Tevis, that the Avel, about Hilchos Avelus over here on Shabbos, so one thing is called Pachas. Pachas is going to be an abbreviation for three things, and those things it says that he has to do. He has to do means he has to do it because if he would not do it, then it would look like Avelus. Again, we're going now, the opinion is Avel is not allowed to do Avelus on Shabbos. And these three things he has to do, he can't, if he's not going to do these three things, it's going to look like Avelus, and he can't do Avelus. But the other three things, that's going to be abbreviated, Nun Taf Reish. So then, if he wants to, it doesn't look so bad. Even if he doesn't, if he could do it, we'll see what those three things are. So the first thing is pay. Pay is Pachas. We have Pachas over there. Maybe I can hide over here. I'm not sure how to use this. Let's say if I could. I'm not sure. I can get it going.
Where is it?
It's highlighted. It's highlighted. So it is.
You're trying to do a whole word, not a letter.
Okay, I'm trying to do something, but it's not working. Okay, so anyway, the Prius Rosh. Pay Prius Rosh. Prius Rosh means must up here. Okay, got it. I've got pretty small. Let's try to make it bigger. I'm sorry for the amateur. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so okay, now working so well. But Prius Rosh, that's the pay. Okay, so he must uncover his hair, his head, which is the opposite of wrapping his head. Atifas Rosh. He has to. If a person is going to go around on Shabbos with his head covered in a way that looks like a velus, he can't do that. So he must not do Atifas Rosh. And Chazaros Kerol Achorov, the Ches. The Ches stands for Chazaros Kerol Achorov, that he has to turn the Kriya behind him. Means that if he has a jacket, you can't turn backwards. But if he has, let's say, a sweater or something like that, or a jalabia, one of these cloaks, that he'd be able to turn it backwards in a way that no one would see it. No one should see the torn clothing.
So Rabbi, sorry, it's muted.
Thank you, everyone. Listen. Okay. Sorry for the reckless driving over here, but
Can you hear us?
I'm trying. Okay.
Are we back?
Okay. It's audible now.
Hello?
Yes, we hear you now.
Yes, it is, yes.
Okay. So the Avel on Shabbos, since he's not allowed to do Avelus, so he has to do Pachas. What's Pachas? Pachas stands for Priyas HaRosh. He has to uncover his head. It means he can't go with a wrapped head like Atifas HaRosh, which is one of the things I was supposed to do. The second thing is Ches. Chazaras Kerol HaCharav. He has to turn the torn garment behind him. It means that he shouldn't be noticeable. It shouldn't be noticeable that he's wearing a torn garment. And the Zion is Kifas Amita. That's the opposite of Kriyas Amita. They're supposed to turn his bed upside down, so he has to turn it right side up on Shabbos. These two things, people anyway today don't do Kriyas HaRosh. They don't do Kriyas HaRosh, and they don't do Kifas Amita. So those two things. But if he would do those things, it would be noticeable that he's a novel, and therefore he's not allowed to do it. He must do Pachas. He must uncover his head. He must turn the Kriya behind him, and he must. That's the one that applies. And yeah, people wear, he doesn't wear a torn garment on Shabbos. That's what we're saying, that he can't do Avelus that's going to be noticeable, so he can't wear a torn garment on Shabbos. And Skibas Amita, he must make the bed upright. That's the chov, all those things he must do. But there are other things that are not so noticeable, even though it's Avelus, but it's not so noticeable. And that is Nilas Sasando, that even if he doesn't wear shoes, it doesn't necessarily show that he's a novel, because people also don't wear shoes sometimes. That's what it seems. If he would not wear shoes, if he go barefoot outside, then I don't know, maybe that is noticeable. But well, let's take the words of the Gemara that Nilas Sasando to not to wear shoes is not terrible.
So today would be like wearing Crocs.
Yeah, so nobody, that's not noticeable. If you say it like that, then it's okay. So people do sneakers or Crocs, so then it wouldn't be noticeable that he's a novel. So he's allowed to do that on Shabbos. Tash Shamita, they not have relations, because it's not noticeable, of course, if he doesn't have relations, and even between himself also, like he doesn't always have relations. So it's not necessarily a way. If he doesn't have relations, it doesn't show that he's an Avel. And if he doesn't wash his face and hands in the evening, like Friday night, people usually would do it. They might have done it. We do it before Shabbos, but there's a second. It seems maybe some learn they're supposed to do it at night. But anyway, on Shabbos, Friday night, if he's not going to wash his hands and feet with hot water, of course, it would have to have been heated before Shabbos. So that wouldn't show Avelus, because not always does a person wash. So these things, even though it is a way of Avelus, that a person doesn't wear shoes and he doesn't have relations and he doesn't wash. Even so, if he doesn't do it on Shabbos, it's not noticeable that it's because of Avelus. The first three things are very noticeable, and therefore he's not allowed to do those. He can't wrap his head, he can't have a torn garment, and he can't have his bed overturned, because that surely shows Avelus. But these things, even if he's going to not wear shoes and not have relations and not wash, it doesn't show that he's a novel.
Are they permitted, in other words? Is that what it
So very nice. So the Gemara says that it's permitted not to wear shoes. It's permitted not to have relations. It's permitted not to wash. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he is not allowed to. It just says it's a reshus. It isn't conspicuous that he's doing Avelus, like the first things. So, but some poskim say the Rosh says that since he's allowed to, so he must. That since he's allowed to, now it goes back to Avelus. Means he should do it. It's called like Avelus Mitzina kind of a thing. It's called like it's private. Nobody knows about it. He can't show conspicuous. He can't show Avelus. But things that are not conspicuous, so he should do. So they say, even though the Gemara says Rishus, it means that he doesn't have to wear shoes. But since he doesn't have to wear shoes, so he should not wear shoes. Since he doesn't have to have relations, so he should not have relations. Since he doesn't have to wash, he should not wash. In the Gemara, it's not so muchach. You can learn the Gemara. This means that he may not. But poskim say the Rosh, and that's how we think we're going to poskim, that the things that he may not do on Shabbos, so he may not do. So he should not. I'm not saying it so clearly, but we got the idea that Tashmish Hamita, let's say, since he doesn't have to hold back from. He doesn't have to have relations in order to show that he's not a novel, so he should not have relations. The way we would say here also, he should not wear shoes. That's what it seems to have said. We'll get more as we go on.
So then the person.
Right. So the way I'm saying it now, maybe he should not wear shoes. Maybe he should. Maybe he should not wash.
He shouldn't go to mikveh Erev Shabbos. So people see him that he's going to mikveh and wash and taking a shower.
And as a novel allowed to take a shower during Shiva, then Shabbos is coming.
Right. We said.
Yeah, we said yes.
I don't remember saying yes. We didn't say it. We didn't say so. We just said before. We said before the regal comes. The regal is mafsik. So then The regular is mafsik. He's allowed to take a shower before. He's allowed to. This regular is mafsik, but the Shabbos is not mafsik. So I don't recall.
Regular is mafsik.
We're not talking about Shabbos now. Shabbos is not mafsik. So I don't.
I'm almost sure that everybody took showers like this.
So I don't recall. So I don't recall.
Before Shabbos,
I don't recall that it should be mutter, but I'm not saying
Look
anything.
it up, look it up.
Okay.
I think you never said I can go shower on
Right.
Friday, on the Erev Shabbos, get ready for
Yeah.
Shabbos, whatever I do Erev Shabbos.
Okay, so I don't know that.
Okay.
Okay, but I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it as a strongly. The Rav Amar Aprius Rosh Rishos. Rav argues on the pachas, the pay. That Shmuel said that he must uncover his head because he goes with a wrapped head. It's obvious that he's a novel. Rav says no, it's not obvious that he's a novel. So this has to do with the culture and the time and place. Is it noticeable that it's a novel if he would maybe his a wrapped head, a tifas arosh? And the more asks on Shmuel, the Shmuel Maishna Nilasasandal the Rishos, the Lav Kuli Alma Vidi the Samim Misanayu. How come Shmuel holds that if he wants to, he may not wear? He doesn't have to wear shoes because not everybody wears shoes, and even regular people don't always wear shoes. So that's the reason why it's not necessarily showing that is enough by not wearing shoes. So Priya Sarosh Nami Lav Kuli Alma Vidi the Megala Reshayu. The more is asking that many people do a tifas arosh, even not a Balaam. So the more is asking on Shmuel, Rav seems to be right. How come he's saying that he must uncover his head? There are many people that go with a wrapped up head even when they're not available. So the Gemara says it depends what kind of wrapping it is. It could be that a regular wrapping people would do, but the way Shmuel wants a novel to wrap, that nobody does, only if it's a novel. As the Gemara explains, Shmuel Tamei Damar Shmuel Kol Kera Sheina B'Shaschim U'Meinu Kera V'Chol Atifa Sheina Ketifas Ishmeilim Eina Atifa. The first thing Shmuel said two things. We don't need the first one. The first one's coming in only as a side statement. We'll come back to that in a minute, and the Gemara is going to go on a tangent. But what we want to know is this thing. Sheina Ketifas Ishmeilim Eina Atifa. Shmuel holds that a wrapping has to be the way the Arabs do. And the Gemara is going to explain right away what does that mean. It's a real wrapping that people don't usually do it. The Arabs do it, but the Jews don't do it, only if they're a novel. So then he holds you're not allowed to do it on Shabbos because it's too conspicuous. But if you do a wrapping that's not so extreme, so then it isn't so conspicuous. And that's what Rav meant to say, that you're allowed to do on Shabbos. So there's no real machlokas between Rav and Shmuel because both of them say that you cannot do a wrapping that's noticeable that is a novel, and everybody says that you could do a wrapping which is not noticeable that is a novel. The only question is, how kind of wrapping is an oval supposed to do? Shmuel says that a wrapping that's not a tifas ishmael was not considered a wrapping. What does that mean? That it means until the gubi the dikna. Dikna means a beard. What's gubi the dikna? Rashi says some kind of a guma that seems to be like the indentation above the chin, that's under the lip, and he has to wrap his face. The Rashi seems to say that it means his nose and his mouth and the mustache, that the beard, that is wrapped up. It means that if you have like an Arab kfiyah, and you would just not wear it hanging down, you would wrap it on the face, covering the mouth, and that's called a kind of wrapping that's called a tifas ishmaelim. And that oval should do. In those days, of course, nowadays we don't wear this kind of clothing, so it doesn't apply. But if you wear this kind of clothing, so then you should wrap in the way the Ishmaelim do. And that's what Shmuel says you can't do on Shabbos because that's noticeable that it's an Avelis. Rav doesn't hold it have to have that kind of wrapping, and therefore he says that you're allowed to do it on Shabbos also because it isn't so noticeable that it's for Avelis.
I'm ready to say this is how we do it.
Very nice. So I was mentioning that this has to do with the way people put on a talis, that it says L'satef b'tzitzis, and some people say L'satef means atifa, and if it means atifa, the Gemara says you don't need it. The Gemara says L'satef doesn't mean dafak atifa, and you just put it on the way you do it regular. You don't have to wrap anything around, and that's how. They don't wrap it. They don't. But the people. What? I guess I don't know the names, but other people hold that L'satef means. Yeah. But the question is, what do you do? What do people do? So people. What's that? So there's no two ways, only one way. No, I don't know any reason why people should do on both sides. And also people they bring down the talis till the mouth. That's a pella. How could that be? How the Ishmaelim going to go on the street? How are you going to see where you're going? If you ping, it can't be a tifas. People understood that. So it means underneath. That's what you did it right. You do it right. If you look at some people, they take the talis and they put it down over their head till their mouth, and then they wrap it around. And that's impossible. How you going? It's a wrapping. You're supposed to go on the street like that. You have to walk. You have to see where you're going. So the Gemara doesn't mean that he brings the talis down until his chin. It means that he brings it under his eyes around the chin. So if someone does want to do atifa, that's the way to do it. The way to do it is from under, leave his eyes uncovered. Okay. You have something over there, please? Shin Pei Aleph Sefalef Rechitza Ketz Adas Alirchos Kol Gufa Afilu Betzonin Avupani Vada Vragla B'Chama. He talks about Shabbos over here. So we have to. Okay, we have to find about Shabbos. That's okay. We have to find out what it says about Shabbos. Okay, so Bez Hashem, I hope to by tomorrow. Please, someone remind me. So, okay, that's the question about Avelus in general. But the question was of Shabbos. What's different about Shabbos? Amar Rabbi Yaakov, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Lo shana b'ala she'en lo menala b'raglav. Avol yesh lo menala b'raglav, menala b'chichanolav. Seems to say that these things we said that a person has to make sure that he doesn't show conspicuously that he's doing Avelus. That's only if he's not wearing shoes. If he's not wearing shoes, then he has to make sure that he uncovers his head. And what else did we say? And ches, and he puts the kriya. The kriya shouldn't be behind him. And what else? And Zion's kifas amita. But if he's wearing shoes, so that shows that he's not a novel. And then he'd be allowed to wrap his head and say he can do other things. It seems Tesh has a kasha that it shouldn't be only wearing shoes. It should be anything, any way that he shows that he's not doing enough avelus. But he seems to say that shoes shows especially that he's not a novel, and therefore the only issue is he showing avelus or not. So if he shows that he's not a novel by wearing shoes, so then even if he does some things which might look like avelus, but he's declaring that he's not a novel. That's an interesting thing that it doesn't have to be. It seems that he just has to announce. It should be clear to everybody that he's not doing avelus. And even though he's doing some things that look like it is avelus, but if he shows I'm not doing avelus, so one thing alone to show that he's not a novel, something which is very clear. He wears shoes. That shows that he's not a novel. So then he could even do other things which might look like avelus because he's declaring simultaneously, I'm not a novel. I'm not doing avelus. One thing. So really, we're stopping a second. That sugya. Are we stopping? Are we finished already? No, we didn't finish the sugya about avelus for Shabbos yet. But since the Gemara mentioned Agav, I missed that. I didn't explain it. I said Shmuel said two dinim, and we're only concentrating on the second one. Again, the Gemara said Shmuel Tamei. The Gemara explained Shmuel by saying the reason why he cannot wrap his head on Shabbos is because he also has to be a tifus ishmael. But Shmuel says something else which we skipped because we really wasn't there. But now the Gemara is going to go into it. He says, that's a law about kriya, that a person has to tear kriya b'shas chimum. Chimum means like getting heated up when he's emotional. If a person's going to tear kriya a dry kriya, it's not called a kriya. Kriya has to be when he's heated. So now the Gemara is going to open up a window about that. It wasn't a get to us. We just wanted the member of Shmuel because he said kol atifas she'ein katifas ishmaelim. But once we mentioned it, now the Gemara is going to go into the din about kriya. So we're going off the subject. Kol kera she'eino b'shas chimum eino kera. Is that true? That if someone dares kriya not when he's heated up, that's not called the kriya of amulei. I have to make it smaller over here. Amulei l'Shmuel. First white line. Nach nafshei the Rav. Koralei treit semani. They told Shmuel that Rav died, and he tore 12 begadim on Rav. He did kriya. Not that he's a relative, but he was Talmud Chacham, and the Gemara is going to soon say how emotionally he was bothered by the fact that Rav died, and he tore 12 begadim. Omar also
contemporary.
Right. They were. But look, they were. Yeah, they were chavrusas, called chavrusas, contemporaries. And when Shmuel heard that Rav died, he tore on him 12 begadim. Omar also doesn't mean. It seems that it doesn't mean that he tore at one time 12 begadim. It means he tore, and then he tore again. So the Gemara is asking that seems that it was not shas chimum anymore. Shas chimum is when he initially hears and he gets emotional. But
I would think it was a chimum b'kol 12.
So the Gemara is asking that it's not. The Gemara thinks that's the Gemara's kasha. The Gemara thinks that if he did it 12 times, that means that he's not shas chimum. Omar Gazal Gabra Deva Mistafina. He said that a man who I was scared of left. Means he was such a big Talmud Chacham that I was scared. I was scared of him. That his kasha says whenever he said something, he was such a big Talmud Chacham that I was scared of him. So he tore kriya 12 times because of Rav's death. Mistafina is to be scared of. Another story. A similar story. They told Rabbi Yochanan that Rabbi Chanina died. Also, he tore 13 garments of fine wool. A person that I was scared of left. So you see that these two times that people, that Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan, they talk kriya 12, 13 times. So you say only b'shas chimum, which the more things means only by the initially hearing about his death. The more answer, Shani Rabbanan, the whole shayt, the midkri, Shmatay, Tamid the Chachamim are different because then they're constantly being quoted. So each time that he quotes him, it brings back the initial pain, and that's considered shas chimum also. But the Gemara doesn't fall off that it's only shas chimum. The Gemara is conscious on this. Amalei Ravan Barada L'Rava. Ravan Barada told Rava the following. You're a student, Rav Amram said. Rav Amram was a student of Rava. So somebody told Rava, your student said the following. Tanya, we learned in a brisa, all 7 days he has to have the kriya, the torn garment has to be in front of him, it should be noticeable. And if he changes a garment, he has to tear again. He put on a new garment, he has to tear the other garment also. It's not only the initial garment that he tore in the beginning. He has to change. If he changes, he could change, but he has to tear that garment again. That's the meaning of Kasha, that it's not b'shas chimon, because he tore already b'shas chimon. The Shabbos korah la'achrev and ba'al la'achlef machlef. On Shabbos, he's not supposed to wear the tear in front of him. It's supposed to be behind him, like I said before. And if he wants to change, he can change, and it doesn't tear. That's what people do nowadays, that they change the garments for Shabbos and they don't tear it. But anyway,
they take the original garment, the original torn garment, they put it on again.
we're talking about Shabbos. You're talking about Motzei Shabbos. We're talking about on Shabbos. On Shabbos, he puts on a different garment, and he doesn't have to tear it. And
I would hope so.
during the week, if he changes garments, he has to tear it again.
Sure.
So that's what it's saying. That even though when he changes garments during the whole shiva, he has to tear the other one again. But on Shabbos, he doesn't. But the kasha is that it says that he tears it even though it's after the initial hearing. Here he tore already, now he's tearing again. So he's saying kriya, it's not b'shas chimon, it's not a kriya. So what's he tearing a second time for? The Gemara says kitanya hi b'chvod av imo. That's only for a parent. And by other relatives, there wouldn't be any sense in tearing a second time because it's not b'shas chimon. But by a parent, that he should not go the whole week. He should go with different garments, even if he changed. And it's not the real kriya, because the real kriya is only b'shas chimon. But he shouldn't go with the garment that's not torn. So l'chvod avimo, he does do a kriya again, even though it's not a real kriya. But the Gemara still holds on to the statement that a kriya has to be b'shas chimon, or else it's not a kriya. The Gemara wants to know, osen kruan misachin or ein misachin. We said that sometimes if a person would change garments, he has to, for a father and a mother, if he changed the garment, he has to tear again. Other relatives not. But on a parent, he does have to tear, and it's not real kriya, but he has to do it with l'chvod avimo. So the question is, we said before that a kera avimo is not supposed to be repaired. You're not supposed to sew it up. But this is not a real kriya. This was only like a special kriya, l'chvod avimo. So mitachin we said means to put it to a professional sewing. A professional sewing. So are you allowed to sew it or not? Machlokes. One says yes, one says not. Machlokes between the father of Rav Shaya and Bar Kapora. We don't know who says what. One of them says you may not. One of them says you may. It means one of them says that we give it the regular din of kriya, and kriya on a parent you're not supposed to ever sew up. And the other one says no, it's not a real kriya, so it may be sewn up. But the original kriya is not allowed to be sewn up. But this second garment that was done just before the avimo, that he did it at the same time after we changed, so that could be sewn up. The next couple of lines, just yes, no. The next couple of lines. The last one on the line is this time. The Gemara wants to know if we could prove who says what. We just said machlokes between the father of Rav Shaya, that's here, Avua, the Rav Shaya, and Bar Kapora. And we want to know, could we prove who says what? The Stayim, the Avua, the Rav Shaya, Dama in the Sachin. I can prove that it's the father of Rav Shaya who's the one who says that it's not supposed to be repaired. How could I prove who says what? Dama Rav Shaya, because Rav Shaya, that's the son of the father of Rav Shaya, obviously. So Rav Shaya, we have a member that he said Ein Musachin. So where did he get it from? The Gemara has assumption that Rav Shaya probably holds like his father. So if he holds like his father, if we see the son holds Ein Musachin, it must be that his father held Ein Musachin. So we can prove what the father held. Lav me miman shmiele. Who did he hear it from? Lav me avua. So the Gemara says no. Bar Kapora was his rebbe, so it's a choice. Who did he get it from? From his rebbe, from his father? Lo, Bar Kapora Rabbi Shmiele. Maybe he heard it from his rebbe, so we still don't know who says what. There's a machlokes between his father and his rebbe, and he passed the name B'sachin. We don't know what he holds like. Does he hold like his father? Does he hold like his rebbe? So that finishes that sugi that came in as agav. That also came in agav about tearing b'shas chimum, and that's how the halacha is. Kriya is supposed to be b'shas chimum, and usually that's when he first hears about it. But the words literally mean when he gets heated up and he gets emotional about it. The Gemara brought down some places where people tore on their rebbe or a chavrusa even much later, many times, and that's because Rabbanan is different, because every time that the Shmuel has said in the Beis Medrash, so it reminds them, it arouses the original pain. The Gemara brings down about changing a garment during Shiva, that usually it doesn't have to be, the Gemara comes out after the Maskana that it doesn't have to be torn again because not Shas Chimum, only on a parent that it is torn again, because even though it's not Shas. Nothing to do with Shabbos. Nothing to do with Shabbos.
I don't know when he's returning. I don't
He took another beggar. He came home from the Levaya, it was torn, and he changed his beggar. What do you say about that? No, he didn't say that. He came home and he changed the beggar. Does he have to tear again? He said he taught Kriya already. He taught Kriya already. And he comes home, he changes the beggar. So we tell him that on another relative, he doesn't have to tear again. He taught Kriya already.
But Rob, but he's changing his beggar, so he won't look like he's in Avelis because he doesn't have torn beggar on.
So on a brother and a sister and on a son, there's no such thing that it has to look the whole time. Only the photo of him, it has to be the whole time. So if he wants to change, he can change to another garment that's not torn. But on a parent, even though it's not just him, he should tear it again.
Which we don't hold today. Today we hold everybody's. So you have to have a torn garment for the whole seven.
How do you know that?
Brother and sister.
How do you know that?
I've seen it everywhere.
What have you seen?
Everywhere I go, I see a torn garment.
Maybe they didn't change. Not that if they were.
But I think that they're not allowed to change.
I don't think so. That's only your impression. I don't know. Yeah, so you can't say that you've seen differently.
No.
It could be that if they want to change.
I never saw it. That doesn't mean
So
that
here it says the machlef for Korea. So it could be that the reason you don't see it because people don't change. But if they would change, that's the rub. They have to tear the second garment. They say no.
Even the Rebbe doesn't have that requirement if you change your garment. Oh, you don't sit for your Rebbe. That's true.
We didn't talk anything about a Rebbe, so we'll leave it meanwhile. We just saw that Rav and Shmuel, they did on their Chavrusa, on their Chaver. But here it's talking about the Gemara says that if the Brisa says that he should tear again, but the Gemara says it only means for Avivimo and other relatives, he doesn't, if he changes, he doesn't have to tear again. Only for a parent, even though it's not Shaslimam, and it's the Chod of Avivimo. On Shabbos, he may change and he doesn't have to tear again. Okay. Back to the sugya about Avelis and Shabbos. Amar Rava, Avel Metal Bunkali B'Sof Beisa. So the words are not. I wouldn't be able to tell what it means. Unkali is some kind of a garment, but the point is that it was torn. And on Shabbos, the tile means to
go for a walk. I understand.
No, he's not going for a walk. He's the word retile could mean relaxing or like that. It doesn't mean over here. The point is they're going for a tiyul. He's not going out, but it means here that he was in his house. It is interesting word to say the tile. Sometimes the Gemara uses it as relaxing. He was on Shabbos. He was over. It was on Shabbos.
Oh, Shabbos.
And he had this unkali, some kind of a garment, and it was torn on Shabbos. And that's the question. Before the Gemara said that an oval is supposed to tear it, it shouldn't be noticeable on Shabbos. Again. Oh, so why is that? We'll see the next line. Another story. Rava said that he may. In this house, he may. Avaya of Yosef the Paris lay Sudra Reshe Bazil Vasi Bevese. And Abaya saw of Yosef that was in his house that also he had a Sudra. It seems also that it was torn. And he said, oh, that's a Tifas Arosh maybe. I'm not sure what. Let's see Rashi a second. We'll get back to that. Paris is like spread over his head. Amalei La Savila
The
Mara.
second type of problem, they had covered.
Let me just see Rashi. I forgot what Rashi says. He says that unkli was that it was torn. And Rashi says because it was in his house, he's going to do Avelos. The point is that's it. Bitzina. Rashi's bringing in the point of Tzina. The Gemara is going to say that in a second. And the next thing, Rashi says it was a Tifas Harosh. He was doing a Tifas Harosh in his house. The Gemara before said that's Machlokes if he's allowed to do a Tifas Harosh. Depends what kind of a Tifas it was. But it seems that it was a Tifas which he's not supposed to do. And that was his kasha. You're not supposed to do it on Shabbos. That's the Gemara over here. Sabai told Rav Yosef, don't you hold that you're not supposed to do Avelos? Don't you hold you, Rav Yosef, don't you hold an Avelos for Shabbos? That things that in privacy do apply. That even though it's here the Gemara is the end of the Gemara, it sounds here that even though we hold an Avelos for Shabbos, but Tvam Shabbat Sinna. Now that the question that might be in the Gemara doesn't mean that he may do it, that he must do it. And it seems that the poskim say that it means he must do it. That things that are not obvious that it's Avelos, he is supposed to act in Avelos, and therefore here it sounds like even having a torn garment, wrapping his head. If he's indoors, it says here that nobody sees, so he can do it. And Tashmish Hamita, surely that it's not going to be conspicuous to anybody.
Not like the Rosh.
No, same thing. I'm saying the same thing over again. That if since he, that he's not.
I tell you, true. This is a hard sugi.
I think that it comes out simple. I think it comes out simple that it's saying that in Avelis b'Shabbos. But then the Gemara says, again, the simple way to read the Gemara, I'm not sure if it has a Pashab shot, but the way that poskim seem to read it is that if it's private, that people don't see, so then he is supposed to act in Avelis. Only things that people don't see. People,
He's
only
supposed to
thing,
be
the only thing
machmir on
people see.
himself when
He should do Avelos when Avelos with Sinner. He's supposed to
The
do
other
Avelos with
stuff is
Sinner.
only to show to
If
others
he
that
go,
he's not
he can't do Avelos
now
that
I
people
get it.
see. He can't do
Now
conspicuous.
I get it.
Before the Gemara said also not a kula, not a kula. The Gemara said that if he's wearing shoes, then it's obvious it's obvious that he's not doing Avelos. See, even though he does things that do look Avelos, he's making declaration. I'm not another. But the cloud that the Gemara ends off with is that Avelos does not apply in Shabbos, but things that are in privacy do apply.
Interesting. You would think the opposite.
Why?
I get it because he's only doing the things of not doing the things of Avelis, so not to Mefarsim that he's being an Av.
He shouldn't show Avelos before Esya. He shouldn't.
But on his own he should show.
So that's so you're agreeing.
I'm a little bit confused by that.
You're saying it on your own. You're saying that he doesn't do Avelos that's conspicuous, but
Right.
things that's not conspicuous, he does do Avelos.
on his own self when he's private.
He should act in Avelos in privacy. That's what it seems to say.
I get it.
It's not. You could learn the Gemara differently, but that's
No, I
how.
get it.
I think that's the halacha. Without knowing much, I think that's the halacha. The Gemara continues. We finished the sugya of Avelos b'Shabbos. I talk about a daf. Today's first Amud, yesterday's second Amud. That was a sugya about Avelos b'Shabbos, and I think in short it would be an Avelos b'Shabbos, but from Shabbos in a no way. The Gemara continues. We spoke about in the Mishnah which things are considered Yom Tovim. Pesach is a Yom Tov, Sukkot is a Yom Tov, how about Shavuos, how about Rosh Hashanah, how about Yom Kippur? So over there's a machlokes that some said it depends if it's a 7 day or a 1 day. If there's a Shavuos, sometimes it's 7 days when you have the Beis Hamikdash, you clean the Kabbalah for 7 days altogether, 6 days. And Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, of course, there's never 7 days. It's a 1 day. So we had two opinions in the Mishnah. One of them said that at Seres, it depends if it's a 1 day or a 7 day. That even Shavuos, if it's only 1 day, like nowadays, it's not considered a regular, and surely Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. And the other opinion was that even Rosh Hashanah and Kippur is considered a regular, Kavachomer Shavuos. So Rabbi Lezer Omer, Mishachol Beis Hamikdash, it says Shabbos because it's only 1 day, so it doesn't have a din of a yontif. Amr Rav Gil Bar Menashe Amar Shmuel, the Halacha Rabbi Gamliel. The Halacha is Rabbi Gamliel who says that even Rosh Hashanah and Kippur is considered a regular and surely Shavuos, and that's how we paskin. That's the Halacha Rabbi Gamliel. Just to go back a second, I can't turn the pages over here, but Halacha Rabbi Gamliel goes back to Daf Yud Tes, and over there it says Rabbi Gamliel Omer Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim Kiregalim. The Chachamim said that Atzeres is a regular, Rosh Hashanah is not, but now the Gemara is passing like Rabbi Gamliel against the Chachamim that even Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is also considered a regular. A couple of Shavuos. So it comes out Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, they're all considered regalim. And all mafsik the Avelos. They all terminate the Avelos. That's what you told me. That Rosh Hashanah. So that's only because of that's only because of Rabbi Gamliel. According to the Chachamim, regular would not be, but we pass like Rabbi Gamliel because it is Gemara Rabbi Gamliel. Rosh Hashanah and Kippur is also considered a regular. Now the Gemara goes on a tangent, a long tangent, because we just quoted Rav Gil Bar Menashe that said in the name of Shmuel Rabbi Gamliel. Now the Gemara is going to bring a whole different subject altogether and say that some say that the Rav Gil Bar Menashe that said halacha about something, he didn't say it on this, he said it on something else. So we're going mamash on a cruise on a different halacha lagamri that has no shaykhs. We'll come back to this din about Yom Tov terminating the Avelos. But now we're going on a cruise. Some had the learning of Rav Gil Bar Menashe that he paskined on the following halacha. So altogether different halachas, which also has to do with halachas of Avelos, but it's altogether different. It talks about a baby that died. How did they do the funeral? How did they give the cover of the funeral? So it depends how old he is. If he died within 30 days, it's an April, he's less than 30 days. So then they don't take him out with an oron, they don't make an oron for him. It wouldn't be proper to make an oron for such a small, for a nafil. So you carry him out to the funeral. He's carried without a coffin, without a bed. He's just carried out.
This is talking about in Bubble only or in Eretz Yisrael also?
I don't see the difference. Why should it make a difference if it's bubble?
Eretz Yisrael, they use Aron.
No, nothing to do. That has to do with the age. Since he's only less than 30 days old. The
Okay.
Gemara is not talking about an Aron and a Mita. No difference. It means that it does carry him. Somebody carries the dead baby to the grave. And also, it's not a big funeral with a lot of people. It's 3 people. Altogether, three people. It doesn't say that. It just says 3 people. 3 people go to bury him without making a whole procession with a funeral. Now that did that for technical reasons that some people don't like it, but that's not. But here the point is that 3 people go, and it talks about the issue of yichud. When people go to the cemetery, nobody's there. is there yichud. So it says one woman and three men. Probably it could be surely three men, but it's a question of women going. So that's
two men.
one. Yes, as I said, surely three men. But if there's a woman going, so it has to be shouldn't be in a yichud. So one woman and two men.
Okay.
One woman and 2 men is no yichud?
No, two men is not yichud. But if it's one man and two women, so that's yichud because they're going to the cemetery, nobody's there. So then it'll be also because of yichud. Think, oh, the next one after. Okay, I have to 1 second. Let's go over here. How do we do this? I'm not sure what I'm doing here. Yeah. Okay. Here we are. Okay. Now we'll make it a little bigger. Abba Shaul argues. I think I can go all the way. It's supposed to get 1 second. Let's try to do it more. Okay. I think we could do the whole maximum here. We'll try to finish. A little smaller. He says that there's okay, even though usually it would be yichud because it's only two men and a woman, but here it's mutter. Taisha says, I think in the name of the Yerushalmi something that because it's such a tzad, they're going to bury a baby, so here there's no yisa yichud, but otherwise there would be. We pass like the Rabbana that even at such a time there's also yisa yichud. Since he died less than 30 days old, so there's no shura. Shura means that they menachem him after the krura.
Where do we find shura?
We had it many times. What?
Shura also means a nobleman.
Shura means a line, a row. And we had this in Brachos also spoke about making a shura. So here it says that a baby that's died less than 30 days, there's no shura.
Shura, I thought you said shura.
To menachem the avelim. So there's no shura. I think there's no avelos. They don't have there's a bracha nowadays. They don't do it to anybody, but there used to be a bracha, and they don't do that bracha. And also there's no nichum avelim. Ben shloshim. But if he's already 30 days old, Yotzei b'tluskama. So they don't just carry him in their arms. Then he does go out in some kind of an aron. Rabbi Yehuda Omer lo b'tluskama and tell us because sefer and tell us b'agapayim. So Rashi says it means that there's a small one that will be carried by one person. No, it's already a chashuv thing. Two people carry him. Two people carry him. It's more mechubad because he's already 30 days old. And there is nichum avelim on that. The baby's already 30 days, so then there's going to be a shura to be menachem and then there's the shiva and the 30-day-old and there's shiva. But as far as this is more like the procession of what they're doing. Also, the mechabed that he's already 30 days old. So then there's a shura, there's tenchumen and birchas avelim and tenchumen. This was kind of an on. Ben Yud Beis Chodesh Yosef Amita. So once he's already a year old, if he died and he's already a year old, so then Amita. Amita is more honorable. I don't know, nowadays they don't do Amita. I'm not sure what, okay, I'm not sure. Amita means a bed. No place do they take him out with a bed. But that might have been a minig in those times. And like no Amita, the Gemara does call it no Amita. So if it's in contrast to Luskmo or some kind of a box, so here Amita is something more mechubad. So it says that for a 30-day-old, they would take him out in a luskama, in that oron, but in a year-old, so then with a bed. But Rabbi Kiva argues that
it's not the litter, L-I-T-T-R, it's not the litter, but
if that's called a mita, so maybe that would be the mita of today. So Rabbi Kiva Omer, Dafka, if he's some, not.
Is this all Abba Shaul or is this a different?
I'm not sure where you're up to.
No, I'm saying all these Ben Shloshim and Ben.
No, Abba Shaul's only the first line. Abba Shaul's the first line.
Okay.
He just puts in one thing that there's no it's a yichud over there, but the rest thing, the Stam Bryce is talking. Now it continues. Rabbi Kiva says, we keep arguing this point about a year old. Tanakama says, once he's a year old, they give him this covered. Rabbi Kiva says, not yet. Rabbi Kiva Omer, hu ben shanu ve'vav ben shtayim, hu ben shtayim ve'vav ben shanu yosef b'mita. Only if he's more than just a year old, either because he looks like a 2-year-old, even though once he's a year old, but he looks like a 2-year-old. He's big, a big baby that looks like a 2-year-old, or he's actually 2 years old, even though it doesn't look so big. But it has to be something. If he's just a 1-year-old alone, that people would say it's not yet the time. It has to be at least that he looks like 2 years old, or he actually is 2 years old. Now it seems to be talking about the whole attitude towards this funeral. I think the point is that you make like a levaya that people are called to come and everybody comes. It's a whole matzah. The word matzivin, I think Rashi says, try to get Rashi here. Margishinu Mitzarin. This Rashi over here, Margishinu Mitzarin. So it doesn't mean you put it on, you put it off. You can just turn on emotions, put it on and off. I think the point is to say that many people are involved in the funeral.
Of this 1-year-old? Are we still with the 1-year-old?
I would say so.
Or with something else?
Rab Shimon Elazar says, "Hayosef B'mita," the age, whatever you hold, 1-year-old, 2-year-old, whatever it is, if he's the level that already that goes out with, is taken out in a mita, so then the many people, then the masses, the tzibur, is mityaches. The next one seems to argue, I think. I don't know the difference between Matzibin and Masaskin. So I'm saying it's all the same. And it means that according to the first opinion, once he's Yotzi B'mita, that's enough that the rabbim should be involved. But Elazar Azari says only if he's old enough that he's already, people know about him. That means a child who's 1-year-old, 2-year-old, the tzibur doesn't know about him yet. The community doesn't know about him. But once he's bigger, then he already goes out in the street, then he's already going to the grocery store, things like that. People see him, so then he's a red. Then they make a funeral with him with the people. Otherwise, it's a private thing. It's not in place to make a
It
big.
seems a little bit similar to Rabbi Shimon ben
The other one said this year was Yotzi B'mita, which is 1 or 2-year-old, and now he's saying no, there has to be more. There has to be somebody who's Nicola Rabin.
It's very interesting because there's an organization in America that takes care of funerals. They give you chairs and everything, and they call Masaskin. That's the name of the organization.
Very nice.
And they do great work.
Mhm. Mahin behesped. Is there a din hesped? At what age does he have to be in order to make a hesped? At what age do they start making hespedim? There's a difference between the social bracket. And Rashi says the reason is because poor people, they are more connected to their children because they have nothing else in life. A rich person, he has other businesses. He gets but a person who's poor, so he's more connected, more pained by the death of his children. So Rameir says there's a difference if he's ani or nashir. Niyam is b'nei shalosh, a 3-year-old. Ashir is b'nei chamesh. It seems that the gist of the Gemara is saying, according to this pshat, that the older the son would be, the more tzar there would be, the more pain there would be. But an ashir wouldn't be with star as much on a ben shalosh than a ben chamesh. So they're not maspid. The only maspid if he'd be a 5-year-old. But a poor person, they're maspid even if the child was a 3-year-old. Rabbi Yehuda and Mishmo, aniyim b'nei chamesh, ashirim, make it a little smaller. Ashirim b'nei shesh. He also differentiates between a rich person and a poor person. But he says the chiluk is not 3 and 5, the chiluk is 5 and 6. That if they're poor, then the hesped would be from a 5-year-old and up, and if they're rich, then the hesped would only be for a 6-year-old and up. The children of older parents, so they have the same tzar as b'nei aniyim, even though they're rich, let's say, and usually would have been whatever the sheet is, 5 or 6. But if they're older parents, so then even of course they're not so old. If they just had a 3-year-old, they're not so old. But the point would be that also the pain is great, and even on b'nei whatever the share would be for an ani was also by them. On this, we waited for this a long time now. All this came in only because we wanted to say that we're on the cruise now. The cruise was that Rav Gil, not such a happy cruise. We're all talking about the death of a baby. But Rav Gil Menashe, according to this version, he's the one who said the name of Rab, not the name of Shmuel. He is the one who said Allah Rab Yuda. This last thing we said in the first wide line that Niyam b'nei Chomesh, Hashem b'nei Sheish, and b'nei Zken b'nei Niyam. He came to Paskin like that. The first version of Rav Gil Menashe came to Paskin like Rav Gamliel and our Mishnah, that Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur was like a regular as far as terminating. And he had another girsa. This all could have been in parentheses, that there was another version that said that he didn't say it on this before. He said something else. He said that b'nei aniyim b'nei chomesh, ashim b'nei sheish, as far as the hesped goes. And that's what he meant to paskin. But the Maisa, we do paskin like Rabbi Gamliel and our Mishnah, that Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are also considered a regular. The Gemara continues. Third wide line. There is Rabbi Nani bar Sasson Pischa Debei Nesiya. Rabbi Nani bar Sasson darshan. He's by the doorway of the Nasi. That's what he says in Drush. I don't know what he's doing over there. 1 day before Shavuos, plus Shavuos, is already 14 days. Means as far as Shiva, the Shavuos terminates the Avelos of Shiva. But it also is going to take away from the Shloshim also. That 1 day before, means the Shiva is terminated before Shavuos, even if it will be 1 minute before Shavuos, and Shavuos itself is considered 7 days. and it takes down another 14 days. It takes down 14 days. He finished already half of the shloshim.
Wow.
By just the 2 days, he already finished half of shloshim. The Gemara will explain soon. And Shamar Rabami Vikpid, Amar Otu Didei, Rabbi Lazar Amar Rabbi and Rabami heard that Rabbi Nani Bar Sasson said so, as if he said in his own name. And he said, why are you saying in your own name? This is in the name of Rabbi Lazar Amar Rabbi, which the Gemara is going to explain in 2 lines what he said. We'll see in 2 lines. But right now, the Gemara puts in another story, either it's Ikadami, maybe, different names. Darash of Yitzchak Napocha, Kilo de Reish Galusa, Yom Echad of Ne'atzes, V'atzes Arei Kana Boasa. The same halacha. There's somebody else also darshan, of Yitzchak Napocha. He darshan so on the porch of the Reish Galusa, and he said also that if Avela started the day before, or even an hour before Shavuos, so also plus Shavuos is going to be ready 14 days of the Shloshim, and he only has to finish up the Shloshim from 14.
Why 14 should only be 7?
Why?
Because like Sukkot and
Yeah, but
So
we'll say Sukkot also that everything that is terminated before it already counts for 7.
oh,
That's like 7 before he
that's 7
started.
before
The servant is
oh,
terminated.
because by he's not saying Shiva.
Right. So no different. If it would have been 3 days, also it would have that counts for Shiva. When it comes to that, it's already counted Shiva. And even if it was 1 hour, it's also counted Shiva already.
Oh,
And then the Yontif itself is also counted another day.
Really
This is the
hold on.
halacha. This is the halacha. As far as the Shloshim also is terminated, it gets shortened.
But
The
Shavuos
Shloshim was not terminated. What?
Shavuos really would count as 1 day.
So he says no. That's the chiddush. He says Shavuos is 7 days.
what
That's his
it counts.
chiddush. That's his chiddush. Shavuos counts for 7 days. Sukkot is 7.
Shiva Miluim. Is that why? Shavuos is Shiva Miluim. That you can bring Karbanos all the
That
time.
since he can bring kabbanis for 7 days afterwards, it's considered a
So
yantif.
what happens in the
But not
Shloshim?
only
I don't
because-
understand.
But the shloshim is already 14 days gone already,
Why?
Right.
because Shavuos is considered a 7-day holiday.
Even though it's 1 day. It's good.
I don't understand because that he's going to go through the past those 6 days after Shavuos. He's going to go through them
14 from 30. He gets 14.
till Shavuos. If it's knocked down,
Right.
7.
He's not
The
saying
Shiva's
that.
over, and the day of Shavuos counts for 7 days. You're asking why? We'll see in a second. I'm not sure if I have the answer, but here's Yitzchak the Prophet said the same thing, and he said that the day before Atzeres, and Atzeres is considered 14, and Shamar Rav Sheshes, why is he saying it in his own name? It's from Rabbi Amar Rabbi Shaya. Now this both of them said, Rabbi said, Rav Sheshes said, both of them said that this is for sure, it's based on Rabbi Amar Rabbi Shaya. What did he say? Rabbi Shaya, Minay Atzeres Sheish Lo Tashlumin Kol Shiva Shenema B'Chag HaMatzos B'Chag HaShavuos B'Chag HaMatzos Sheish Lo Tashlumin Kol Shiva B'Chag HaShavuos Sheish Lo Tashlumin Kol Shiva. Even after Shavuos, you're allowed to still bring the kabbanas. If someone didn't bring the kabbanas of the yontif, the Ola Sviya Shalom Chagiga, that didn't bring it on Shavuos, they can bring it for the next 6 days because it's like matzahs, Chag HaMatzos, just like Pesach is 7 days. So too, Shavuos has Shlashlumin for another 6 days, altogether 7 days. But I don't understand why that should make that Shavuos alone counts for 7 days. Like Pesach, it's 7 days, and it's 7 days.
Why the 7 of Shavuos itself, and then the 7 and the
The next 6 days are he's going to live through them. So so you can't count it 2 times. You're counting them as if Shavuos itself was counted 7 days. Why it's itself plus another 6 days coming up. So I don't understand. But that's the halacha. I think that's the halacha. And the Gemara says even a bigger chiddush now. Ad B'rei. Where are we up to? Ad B'rei. Trying to get up on the screen. Ad B'rei Apapa leRav Yasaba v'Darash. Rapapa. The word Ad B'rei means to lead. He brought him and he told Rav Yasaba and he told him, Yo Mechad Lefnei Rosh Hashanah Rosh Hashanah Harei Kana Abasa. Rosh Hashanah is also the same thing. Rosh Hashanah counts for. It's considered a 7-day holiday. Over there, it doesn't have anything to do with Tashlumin. Rosh Hashanah is not a 7-day holiday. It's nothing to do with Tashlumin of Karbanos over there. But it says that 1 day before Rosh Hashanah, if the mace was buried and he started Avelos, and then it's terminated, so that's already 7 days before Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah itself also is considered a 7 days.
14,
Right, that's the kasha. That doesn't explain that. Before the Gemara said it because it's considered a 7-day holiday. Yes, without that. And now the Gemara says in the bigger chiddush, Amar Ravina Hilkach Yamechad Lefnei Chag B'Chag U'Shmini Shalo Arei Kan Eser Ve'echad Yom. If the person started Shiva before Sukkot, and before Sukkot and Shmini Atzeres is already 21. He only has the rest of the 9 days to go till Shloshim, because it's considered Shiva before Sukkot. Sukkot is another 7 days, and then Shmini Atzeres is also considered 7 days. Ravina Ikla l'Sura the Pras, Amalei Rav Chaviva Mesura the Pras Ravina, Amamai Mechel Lefnei Rosh Hashanah Reikan Abasa. He asked Ravina, did you say so? Did you say that before was quoted in the name of who said Rosh Hashanah? That was Rav Papa. And Ravina spoke about Sukkot. Now, Rav Chaviva Sur the Pras asked Ravina, did you say that 1 day before Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Hashanah is considered 14? I just said that it's Masava, the Lachas like Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel is the one who says that Rosh Hashanah is considered a Chag. So that's all I said. But the Gemara is building on that if Rosh Hashanah is considered a Chag, so it's going to count for 7 days. And I think that's the halacha. I have to still shake it up. I think that's the halacha. That's what all the numbers here say.
It doesn't make a difference because then Yom Kippur comes and Yom Kippur kills the whole shloshim.
So here he has Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah, that's right.
So if it's the day before Rosh Hashanah, then Rosh Hashanah you finish with the 7 days, and then when you get to Yom Kippur you finish with the shloshim. So
He's saying it's not helping him even. He's asking Kasha.
Right.
He's asking Kasha, that doesn't help him. By saying that Rosh Hashanah is considered 7 days.
So it's 4
Right, it doesn't make practically anyway he's going out.
It would, you're right. In this case, you're right. Yom Nachat Rosh Hashanah, you're right. I don't know what to say about that, but it would help.
It would help Sukkot and Shavuos.
Would it help other cases? That for Rosh Hashanah, that it knocks down 7 days. Rosh Hashanah counts down. If he's middle of Shloshim, he's after Shiva already. Let's say the person died 10 days before Rosh Hashanah.
Right.
So so then Rosh Hashanah knocked down the Shloshim already. So is there a case that's going to be enough? I didn't think of this kasha. You're asking that it's never relevant to say that Rosh Hashanah is considered 7 days. Because anyway, the Shloshim is going to be, if it's 7 days before, anybody have a test to this? That if he's, where's the case where it makes a difference that Shiva, the Rosh Hashanah is considered 7 days?
Thank you.
Yeah, but as far as Shloshim, thank you. Okay, we're finished already. Okay. Okay, so I have to think about this. Yeah, but here that case was not mafsek shloshim. But that's saying that it helps him to minimize the shloshim. It's only mafsek shloshim if it was 7 days before. If he finished the shiva, if he finished the shiva before and then he's already in the shloshim, then Rosh Hashanah knocks down the shloshim. But this case, we're not saying it knocked down the shloshim. We want to say a case where it's going to just minimize the shloshim. So we're going to say that it's Rosh Hashanah just knocks down the shiva. It's a case where he didn't start the shloshim yet. He's still within shiva. So the Rosh Hashanah knocked down the shiva, but it did knock down the shloshim. But it minimizes. It counts for 7 days of the shloshim. So what's that going to help him anyway? He's going to get knocked down by Yom Kippur. It doesn't knock down before Yom Kippur. It just add him 14 and another 10, 24. So anyway, that's a kasha. I don't know the answer. I didn't.
That was happening to my wife.
That she, the Rosh Hashanah knocked off.
Rosh Hashanah
knocked off the shiva.
She died 2 days before Rosh Hashanah.
And then Yom Kippur knocked off the shloshim. So what does it help this halacha that Rosh Hashanah is considered 7 days? I imagine that the Rosh Hashanah Master Kasha on the page probably, but then this is like a Shabbos stuff. I don't do as good as the weekday. So
I think what's it called? I don't have the same thing.
So we'll have to look into this. What does it want me to say that Rosh Hashanah counts for 7 days? That's the question, everybody. What?
But it's in 7 days. If you say it knocks out the shloshim, fine. But what's the 7 days? No
7 days of the shloshim.
There's no tashlim on Rosh Hashanah. It's Eretz is maybe you could say the tashlim. What's the 7 days of minimizing the shloshim? What's 7 days?
Why should it count for 7 days? Why? Why should it count for 7 days? Another question is, we don't need it to count for 7 days. There's two problems. Okay, yes, everybody. Thank you. Shavua tov.
Would it be possible for us to